Okay, go ahead. This isn't important. Are we kind of trying to figure out how to improve the onboarding process for new CAs, new members, people new to the platform, new to Catalyst? Is that the idea?
That's one of them, yeah. So the onboarding thing. So when Catalyst Circle did some problem sensing, it kind of brought together some of the community kind of led problems. The top ones kind of surfaced, and those kind of got pushed into the Catalyst Circle, and they have a Trello board, which I don't have a link for, but Stephen definitely will have it somewhere, that has all of these kind of main things they're trying to solve. And 3 of those kind of points, I think, came back to reputation systems. So how can we build that reputation in the kind of community and be aware of that, rewarding. So there's lots of people who are kind of making contributions to the ecosystem, but it can be quite hard to make sure people are actually getting rewarded fairly for that. And then the third one is onboarding, which is, I think a lot of us have talked to different people about, is it can be quite confusing Catalyst. So how can we streamline to make sure that onboarding process, which is somewhat to do with the tools as well, but that, understanding the tooling, everything that kind of makes it easy to kind of get involved with Catalyst. That's that kind of side. So those are the kind of the 3 areas. They're all quite meaty in themselves. So it's quite an audacious chat.
Important though.
All very important, yeah. So if anyone has, I guess to start maybe, Tyler, I don't know about you, but if anyone wants to come in with any ideas they have, just going to share some things. I don't want to try and lead anything here because it's good just to gather people's thoughts and throw things to the floor.
Guys, can I just throw in my 2 cents worth?
Go nuts, please.
It's Jeff from Cardano Outreach. We're a Fund 4 project. One of the things that we've done is we've reached out to about 2,000 students to date, and we've driven them to Catalyst. One of the I've had is we have 11 projects that are referred in Catalyst for us to receive the credit for, so we need to do the good work that we do every month and stop being funded from Catalyst. One of the problems we've encountered is people are not putting down as referrers. They end up putting down their friends or other people. So it would be nice if we could build out that reputation system to include a few features. One of which is if we could incentivize members or projects, or I don't know how you characterize it, that's actually a good question. But if we could reward people who drive ideas to Catalyst, even if they're not funded. So as long as the project goes through the vet process and is deemed somehow, I don't want to use the word acceptable, but a good project or a good idea through some mechanism, we should still reward people for driving traffic to Catalyst. That's one thing. The second thing I just want to share as a funded proposer is the reality that we don't actually submit the proposals. It's all for MVP. It would be nice if we could build out some type of mechanism for those already funded for continuing funding purposes. Because in my opinion, we just don't simply have enough data available for these challenges that are being created. Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, on that, I've got a proposal in Fund 7 for already funded proposal challenge. So that the idea at the moment, I think it's not a large sum, but in the future that could grow and be so that each challenge gets an already funded proposal component. So that people like yourself don't have to recompete in the space to get attention. They can get that they can already prove existing fulfillment of what they said they would do, and then go on and apply for new funding rounds if that's in accordance with what the community agrees with. I'll share a link to that proposal inside the chat there, so you can have a look at it.
Do you want to go, Robert? Sorry, unless you're not done, of course, Phil.
Well, I thought Phil was ahead of me.
Yeah, I don't know if he was done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
He was you wanted to share the. Yeah.
Quick question before I throw this idea out. Atala Prism DID, when is that supposed to be operational in any shape or form?
I imagine that's in the next few months. They've not given a fixed date on that, but they want to do the Pioneer course soon. So I don't think no one here could give you any date on that. But as soon as, I think maybe after the summit, that might be the time they have the capacity to start maybe setting dates for that. But as of yet, I've not seen any kind of thing on date.
Would it
Okay.
be insane to say that we probably won't see anything in the next 6 months?
I think we would see something hopefully in the next few months. They said later part of this year, so I've not heard any reason why that's changed. I think they would have told us by that. They've been generally pretty good at saying if something's not going to make it, this is going to within at least a few months, kind of different. So I think you'll probably be all right. Like, and it's really important to me as well. So like, I've not seen anything.
I would
Okay, well,
think
They're using it already, aren't they? Like they've got it in action in some schools inside Africa that they announced. So
exactly,
just the public release hasn't been done yet, but the tool I believe is in application for themselves.
all right, well, let me just throw it out and you guys will know a lot better than I do. My concern is that there's kind of a, well, George, this is preaching to the converted choir, but the need for a reputation system and an anonymous ID is crucial and prelude to pretty much a majority of the really important things we could do to improve the CA process and a lot of the other reputation-based measures in the Cardano ecosystem. And I am just wondering, because I always get a little nervous when I hear about things that have to go through either the funding proposal process or waiting on a major project. But now I have uncertainty about making that statement with great force, because as you just said, they are actually using it in Africa, which is very encouraging. But I'm just wondering if things still drag on. So let's frame it that way. Would it be so horrible and blasphemous if someone, let's say, wrote a very simple Plutus smart contract to take people's real identity information, encrypt it, drop it on the blockchain, producing a anonymous ID, and then thereby the security would be their ability to sign the transaction. Just have this very simple anonymous ID reputation system, which I think could be banged out in a matter of weeks while we wait for the more powerful and vital systems to be put in place and debugged and go through their measures, because there's so much waiting on getting an anonymous ID. So that was the idea I wanted to throw out.
Seems like it could be done.
So someone with that skill set. I don't know personally. I don't know anyone who would fit that bill who'd have the capacity to do it myself. But
and that is a challenge of Prism as well, because it is a paid application. Like I don't think IAG is necessarily giving it out to the community for free. So we need to keep that in mind as well, that it's not necessarily going to be the best tool. But
quickly, John.
In my opinion, there should be a community-driven DID solution that's outside of Atala Prism. I think it's beneficial for maybe there'd be multiple DID solutions that all use the same sort of framework or standards, like a DID standard, so that they can communicate with one another. There's different types of DID. There's ones like maybe you just need to prove like a proof of life situation where you just need to like have one account that's associated with a living person. That's all you might need to prove. There's other situations where you might need to prove like your account balance, proof of life, and expertise in some sort of field if you're trying to be a CA for a
Right, but
niche.
someone brought up the cost measure, and that's a big deal, obviously. And unless the Cardano blockchain is radically different, because I have Ethereum blockchain experience and now slowly getting up to speed on Plutus, you can verify the signature on a block without having to write to the blockchain. It's built into the platform, so it wouldn't be a paid transaction. So that should help with the cost side of it. But I'll give you a very concrete example. I brought up the topic about this. There's a terrible thing going on right now where proposals of superior quality can be deep sixed and kicked out of the running due to a constructive criticism that doesn't give them 5 stars. So that means the guys that round up their buddies to become CAs and get promiscuous 5-star ratings, or just maybe a bunch of CAs who just are very positive people, these ones that get even like a 4-star rating in one category from a CA can be dropped out of the running against inferior proposals. And I came up with an idea which had to do with the normal distribution of positive and negative, but Victor Corsino very quickly pointed out, hey, there are genuine valid reasons where VC or CA may want to be mostly positive, mostly negative. And the only way to solve that was with reputation. I said, and here's the concrete example. I said, can the VCAs look at the last fund's good number of good and excellent assessments and use that information in determining if a CA has done a good job? And he said, no, because as it is right now, every fund, you get an anonymous ID as a CA, and the killer is in the next fund, you get a new anonymous ID. So it breaks the chain of history. So there's no way to do any reputation at all between funds, which is what we need to correct the problems Victor found with my idea with using a normal distribution. But forget the normal distribution. Let's just focus on the fact that this is why I think having a not duct tape and chewing gum, but a decent, quick, inexpensive, decentralized ID system would be incredibly helpful right now.
Jakob or Jonathan's got their hands up, so can we hear as well?
Let me put my hand down. Sorry.
Yeah, no, on that, I think so. This is something similar to what I'm hopefully going to be working on soon with the community, these kind of community credentials. Is we need these kind of really basic kind of reputation systems to kind of work out for this, whether it's VCAs, whatever kind of VCA proposal, this or that. What kind of simple credentials can we issue them that could they have that kind of starts to build this reputation? So you could maybe bring across a DID from space to space, so you kind of know this DID was associated with this, and then they get issued maybe some sort of they've done this many reviews or whatever information you need to attach to it. I think that's a massive next step. And similar to what Jeff was saying with the referrals and stuff, I think there's the obvious kind of difficulty when you're doing these referral things. If they might bring someone in, but if they're not funded, then there's this incentive to like just bring as many people as you can in because you're getting paid just to bring people in to make proposals. So there's obvious problems here. But what they could get in as an alternative potentially is if you bring someone in, you actually build a reputation, you get issued a credential for the proposals you get in, and maybe there's some sort of like check for that. But then it isn't like a financial incentive, it's building reputation, and they go through some sort of check to be like, oh, they bought a proposal, it meets this kind of criteria for quality. Maybe it's literally the proposer has like a proof of being human. They come to like a Zoom thing and after Townhall, they prove they're human, they issued a credential, and then they build up that person who brought in that referrer will then get that credential. And these are all kind of examples where we don't necessarily try and throw money at a problem to try and think, okay, now we can incentivize all these things, because that's where you get the game theory where people just do really malicious crap. If we can have these kind of really simple credentials that align the right incentive, but actually have some like intrinsic value within the community, I think that's how we can start to solve some of these problems that a few people are mentioning already. But yeah, we need the tooling for it. I personally wouldn't be able to, I've seen a lot of the SSI wallets out there, self-sovereign identity wallets, and different companies out there. People from those teams would be in a good place to kind of maybe quickly whip something up. I personally wouldn't. I understand it all from a like a technical overview level, and hopefully from an implementation level soon, but using it, but actually creating that, I wouldn't be able to say much on the complexity of how to do that in a few weeks. I'd be slightly dubious whether you could do something that's too effective or like is easily transferable to the Atala Prism stuff. I'm not too sure, but I think in the next few weeks it'll be a lot more clear about where they are with this kind of data testing in Africa with the Atala Prism stuff. So that's all I kind of had to say on what Jeff mentioned and also on Steve. So I will bow out.
In quick response to I think Phil mentioned it first about Atala Prism, apparently will be open source. John O'Connor was on a couple of town halls ago, so at least will be a platform we can build on, which is pretty exciting. And yeah, cost-wise, it shouldn't be transaction costs to verify against the DIDs. Go on, Jacob.
Yeah, I just had a quick thought regarding the evaluation of assessments regarding the normal distribution that Robert proposed. And I was thinking that, of course, there are always some biases, right? Some people assess proposals better and some worse. And I think there's not a right or wrong with this. What the bigger question is there some intra-variance within the assessor itself, right? So if a person always or in average has better evaluation of proposals, that person should also have be able to discriminate between better and worse proposals. And if that person only shows like only like 4 or 5 ratings, of course that person is not such a good community advisor, because the person can filter out bad proposals, for example. And so I think if you look at metrics, this would be very important to see like the variance within a community advisor of ratings, and not only the average and compare it. And if you scale it up, you always, I think, will kind of filter out these systemic biases that individual proposals have, if they have a slightly positive bias or a slightly negative bias. That was just my thought on this whole notion of evaluation, which is, but then of course, based upon this reputation system. Robert, do you want to respond to that quickly, or because you raised your hand again?
Yeah, well, Len's in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob, on that idea, I think there's a situation that's a little flawed, because a CA can choose to evaluate proposals that he or she likes or thinks that they are interested in, and maybe end up with giving higher scores, or vice versa, decide that what they're going to do is they're going to review proposals that have few assessments and tend to be ones that they give low scores. So I don't think you can actually draw a lot of inference from the trends that a particular CA assessments follow.
Should I jump in now?
Yeah, go nuts.
Okay, so here was what Victor said to me. And by the way, Victor's one of my favorite people in the community. He's a chemical engineer with a strong math background, which is why I consulted him. I actually have a document on my proposal, which is what he counted. He gave me a valid example of when bias, and in this case, negative bias, which is usually frowned upon by the Catalyst community, is a very good thing. He purposely avoids proposals that he doesn't find problems with. And the reason why is he knows other assessors will catch them. He wants to find the ones that have good ideas, but are written, let's not say poorly, but not optimally. And he likes to educate. So what he does is he chooses proposals that are somewhat problematic, and then he educates them on how to write a better proposal. But because of this, as far as a normal distribution is concerned, he is consistently giving weaker scores because he is giving constructive criticism. A very valid use case where you would have a normal distribution where the skew is far to the negative side. So this is why I'm saying reputation is so important. And George, why I've been a pest in your Discord mailbox lately. It's because after I spoke to him and he pointed this out to me, I realized the way you do it is you do a reputation analysis using the good and excellent scores the assessor received in the last round. So let's say someone is far off the normal distribution. Well, we say, how long have they been doing this? And as far as how many good and excellent assessments have they given? If they've given a lot, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Then we don't apply an adjustment. Again, that's the differential between his average assessment score against the normal distribution. Instead, we say this guy knows what he's doing, so we don't apply the adjustment for the bias. But if they're a brand new one, they haven't proven themselves. So we say, look, you're consistently giving all 2s or all 4s. We're going to subtract that out, change your assessment scores and adjust for that. When you get a better reputation, we will allow you to be further off the baseline. So here was an immediate solution that could be provided if George's reputation system or whatever we come up with was in place. But given the current structure of the anonymous IDs, it is utterly impossible to affect that improvement to the normal distribution compensation mechanism. I hope I haven't lost anybody with what I just said, but there it is.
Can I quickly address that, Robert?
Please.
I'm actually wondering if you're looking to put a proposal in for this, because I would like to see that happen.
Okay, I'm going to give an answer that's going to seem altruistic. You have to understand you're talking to one of the least altruistic people on the planet. But the problem is it's doing so much damage right now that if it's a proposal, that means it won't become activated until F8. And I just don't want to see what's happening right now in
There's nothing to say you
F7.
can't develop it before funding as well, right? So this is.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like you can have it developed. You can say, look, I've been experimenting with this with various tools that we've been working on. It's argumentative whether it's a good thing or not, but you can definitely develop whatever's needed in the ecosystem. And then if the ecosystem believes that was worthwhile, then you can be funded for it.
Okay, well, that's a very good idea, and I thank you for that improvement. And I will take that to heart. The only secondary problem is I would need someone to do at least a small Plutus conjugates. I know what everyone's saying. I heard what you're saying, George, about doing Zoom sessions. There's a lot of people that don't want to show their face to anybody.
I mean,
So
the subject of this room was rewards and reputations predominantly, and onboarding, and not CA issues particularly, specifically. I think so. Can we get back onto reward and reputations?
Well, I mean, I would say that this is overall, not just CAs. I mean, the DID applies to all sorts of funds.
We've just been talking about CAs for the past 10, 15 minutes.
I'm just talking about the DID that's associated with, like, I'm saying if Robert seems to have an idea for a solution here, I would like to see that using the system to being brought into the Catalyst proposal system. Like I believe he has a possible solution. So if he brings that up, sorry.
Yeah, so I liked what I was hearing. I think it would be cool to like that was one idea. It's relevant to reputation, but obviously there's like a few brackets to reputation in the ecosystem, I guess, and that is one of those areas that kind of needs this reputation system, as well as whether it's proposals, just maybe just general community members who just like want to start kind of building up some form of reputation. It's just something that anyone could apply to. It's just like miscellaneous. Like there's reputation everywhere. But I think I would love to see a proposal on that. Like I don't think what I'm doing and suggesting for my stuff will have limited scope for sure. Like I know I won't be the one to probably solve the reputation problem for CA, for instance, but I would love to work, collaboratively with someone. It's like I'm doing something and then someone else is using DIDs in another way, but we're sharing the knowledge bit. So it's gonna be loads of commonalities of us using the same stuff. We can teach each other, whoever's going to develop them with me, or whether I just help maybe on the tech side or whatever. But I'd love to see a proposal like Phil's suggesting, maybe of like different ideas for how to approach that, because I think there's loads of ways you can apply these kind of credentials and DIDs and everything you've got with SSI, and it's really just someone who's actually spent the time to think through the different kind of permutations of different ideas and stuff, because that's the thing that's part of the battle of what's going to take time, and trying to be like, this one looks the most promising because of X, Y, and Z. We can try this one quite easily. These ones are the ones to consider, and then it's very easy to kind of get involved with that mentally and be like, cool, I think this makes a lot of sense. We should try that as a community. So yeah, like I definitely agree with Phil on any kind of document or proposal for that. I think would be really well endorsed. I'd love to read it. So that'd be my 2 cents.
And someone's recommending the rapid funding, and that's in the fund 6 for 7 proposals. So if that gets accepted as a challenge that's been proposed by the circle, then maybe there is going to be a rapid fund challenge. So it won't go through the whole lengthy process. I don't know, but definitely it sounds like you have a solution, Robert. I would love to see more about what you think, and I'd like to vote for it if I see it adding value to the ecosystem.
Well, Phil, I will just end with a gracious thank you.
Thank you.
Go nuts, Tyler.
Oh, I was just gonna say, why don't we go to your onboarding presentation that you wanted to go through?
Presentation will be generous, but yeah. So basically, I've been looking at education resources for a little while and trying to look at what could happen that would be beneficial to both how IOHK can manage the documentation, but then also be beneficial to the community as well. And that's kind of ended up going towards Gitbook looking like a really good kind of really short to medium term solution that solves a lot of problems. And the next problem I have from that is like, okay, I've done all the research, this kind of makes a lot of sense. I want to push that forward. But me going to IHK, it's not really like, I don't have a ton of authority to say, IHK, you should do this. So there needs to be kind of this kind of like change process. And I think what Stephen actually recommended earlier today is there's something called a SIP, a Cardano improvement proposal. And in essence, that was the kind of thing I was starting to think about and suggest is we need to have some sort of thing in Project Catalyst where we can kind of, this onboarding solution that I'm thinking of, I need this kind of change kind of improvement proposal process to be like, here's something I think will benefit, the community because it helps RHK, helps the community with X, Y, Z reason. And it goes through this kind of like faster democratic process that people can vote on in some capacity. That's outside of the funding thing, because it's not really a funding problem, it's more of a process thing. So I don't know if anyone's looked at the Cardano improvement proposal process at all, the SIPs, or seen that themselves. It'd be interesting to see if anyone has had a look at that, because if so, it'd be great to get their insight on that kind of process. But if not, just the overall idea of having this kind of we have the catalyst circle that kind of aggregates these problems together and kind of talks about it and helps to try and push it towards things, but they're not really the democracy, like the democratic system for the whole of the community. They're more kind of like to help lead, finding those problems, kind of helping to kind of bring collaboration in rather than saying this is how we're doing things. It's more to kind of bring things together. So if they have this kind of process as well, some catalyst change proposal process, they can be like, people have come up with these 3 ideas or this one idea and it's been researched. Let's put it through this change process. The community can vote on it. And then we've got some sort of democratic system that helps to solve that problem. Now, what I'm suggesting is like that I've got a little bit of notes on that I'll share in a sec, is likely going to be using something like Google Form because it's something we have right now. We could start to kind of tinker around and play with this and learn. But obviously, similar to what all this kind of reputation awarding and onboarding kind of situation, this also would really benefit from having a Tala Prism, the DIDs, all of this kind of tech, so we can start to think about, okay, how can we do these changes for the things to do with the ecosystem, not to do with funded proposals, but these other things. So it all ties together. So I'll stop there, and if anyone wants to throw any kind of thoughts on that, berate me and go nuts.
So are we saying that the current CIP isn't applicable for improving catalyst mechanism? Why are we needing a different channel?
Yeah, it looks after reading it today and going through it, I think it looks relevant. Like it could go through that. Like it's an open question at the moment for me. It's going to be partly talking to RHK and what their intentions of, like, should that be the same thing or not? If anyone has any strong opinions on that now, then I don't have any strong opinions of it. It looks, because it focuses on a few different areas, so it can do process. So if it's possible, I would just suggest, and I would endorse probably just to go through that same kind of process. But I think this is somewhat going to be an open conversation about RHK, but I also want to share it just to see what people think, if they agree with this kind of the general ethos of having some sort of process-based change system for the ecosystem, so we can kind of actually vote on these things. The actual implementation of it is still very open, and like you said, whether we use the SIP process or just a copy of it that's slightly different, that's up for debate, very up for debate.
Yeah, definitely like the idea of finding some kind of mechanism for allowing change to come from anywhere. I know we've done experiments with the what's the group again? The Catalyst is the body that we have in Catalyst.
The circle?
Yeah, the circle. I know we have the circle and stuff, but I think now is a good time to broaden that more and have something like the CIP for Catalyst that doesn't always have to go through the circle per se. I like the CIP because supposedly that's a candidate for change in Cardano when we have in Cardano, when I was kid, someone gonna making most of the calls or making any calls, for that matter. And if Catalyst is supposed to be the thing that Basho turns into, it makes sense to refine that process, like that, refine a process that can be used for all of the different aspects of Cardano. But are other people familiar with the Cardano improvement
I didn't know it'd been
process?
so formalized, but I'm going to have to go look at that. I'm going to have to step off, everyone. So thank you very much. Good luck with the rest of the discussion. It's very interesting and difficult problems.
Yeah, widespread.
Good luck. I look forward to hear the answer, of today's process.
All
All right.
No worries. Thank you, Phil.
See you
Bye,
guys.
Phil.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Phil.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the Cardano,
go on.
sorry, the Cardano improvement process, as far as I understand it, is quite laborious and slow and difficult as well. It seems to be mostly used by stateful operators to try and bring about improvements to changes to things on the blockchain, even though it happens off chain. And to the last I heard from people heavily involved in the process was that there had been no community suggested improvements actually implemented as of yet. So it's not a quick fix, but that doesn't mean the same will. It's an improvement process. We can apply a completely different one to Catalyst that could be far more driven. It would need adoption by Cardano Foundation and IOG probably, again, same as anything else we do, but we now have the circle to try and push those things through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I definitely repeat that same kind of thing. It's like it's just like I think we could use it potentially. We don't necessarily need to use it. I think there would be a lot of sense for it to become like a fork of, like, there's the CIP one that's very focused maybe on the technical side, and it's like the same template is used for Catalyst, but maybe it's the parameters are slightly different, or maybe so the content you add. Like, I feel there's going to be some difference to kind of the stuff that I've been seeing in the SIP at the moment and what kind of Catalyst it could have. But it's going to be like it's super like natural evolution, where like the thing that I'm hypothesizing that we need is we're going to have these kind of like catalyst circle and these sub circles. Let's say we've got education resources as like a circle, and the people that are kind of helping with the education side of Catalyst, and there's a circle for that. Some things they could be autonomous and decide for themselves because they're like delegated representatives. But then there could be this need for, like, that's one way of doing governance for like the smaller things, and for the slightly bigger things, they have like this kind of Catalyst SIP process, which is going to like what changes is going on that's relevant and speedy enough for this kind of thing. So it's very up in the air, but it has to be endorsed by OHK because they're still custodians. And then we have to kind of think about what's the similar and actually different from the current SIP process, what makes sense to add in there. So I think we're in the early stages of it, and the kind of job for me at the moment as someone who needs to get something through the line is just to kind of gather these thoughts and kind of suggest to RHK and the community. It's like, oh, maybe this works, maybe this doesn't, and then take it from there. So Len.
Yeah, I put into the chat a link to a Telegram channel that is dedicated to a Project Catalyst SIP system. The first proposal, or the first PSIP, is a structure of how Project Catalyst SIPs would work. It doesn't deal with any SIP, it just deals with how a PSIP program would work. Follow on from that would be actual PSIPs, and it's so the link is in the chat. It's on Telegram. It got a little bit of we started a little bit. I was leading that and then got distracted doing other things. But that's like I said, the first one is just the structure of how a PSIP would work.
Could you you say you started that earlier? That's something that's already been, or you've not just made that? That's existed before. Could you give like a small, really brief history of that?
Well, it's I mean the discussion is on the Telegram channel. I put the link on the Telegram channel in there. Again, pardon?
I can't get into it. It's not finding in the chat for me.
Maybe
Same here.
Okay, I think maybe what it is that it was just kind of like by invitation only for some people to get an idea of how it might work and then flesh it out. So I'll open it up. But basically it was, it took the formal SIP process, modified that to be Project Catalyst, but structured around the formal SIP process. And this was just a starter idea. This was not to be the definitive structure. And then after that would be would open for everybody to put Project Catalyst SIPs in.
Could I
And-
suggest maybe we move it to, we already have these three, because the Catalyst Circle is very kind of attached to all these kind of processes, and we have these onboarding, reputation, rewarding Discord chats in Discord, in the Swarm Discord. It might be really good to have a literally Catalyst kind of SIP chat in there where we can kind of take these things, and because I find Discord probably slightly better. It's more better on desktop and stuff for sharing. It's more kind of involved conversation, and Telegram I find is better just for literally kind of casual chat kind of stuff. So just as a maybe suggesting, or we could have both potentially, of course. But maybe that would be a good idea if I start this channel in the Swarm Discord. So then this kind of conversation can peter on, kind of continue on over there.
Okay, let me go back right now and I'll go back to Telegram and see if I can open it up. And then because there's some discussion historical already.
Yeah.
And see, I mean, I think there's no problem having a discussion on Discord or Telegram because there are different people that follow different platforms.
Well, yeah, if I can join it, I could post the chat when we get it. If we get it up, then I can post it in the Telegram, so then people could do both if they want, and I'll be part of both.
I'll go back to it right now.
Sweet. Very good. Cool. Tyler.
Yeah. So I guess this is how does this all relate to let's go with onboarding. That's like the first step of actually getting involved with Project Catalyst or Cardano, right? Do you onboard on the Project Catalyst or Cardano first? Do you use a SIP to change something, or do you use a Project Catalyst improvement protocol on Telegram? These are kind of like, I guess everything's all vague and undefined right now. For on-chain decisions, it's usually done, I guess, through a SIP, right? That's more of a technical change to the network. Eventually, if governance is on-chain, I would imagine that you would improvement protocols for both, just like regular chain or a governance change would be through a SIP, right? Would that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess, like, what problem are we trying to focus on first with this conversation? Do we want to like figure out like how to onboard people better, so that people are like, are we trying to improve the retention rate of the Catalyst community? Are we trying to make decision making? There's lots of problems to solve, but we're not going to solve anything if we keep
Hey guys,
branching off all over the place.
real quick, could someone please, for a newbie, clearly define what you guys mean by onboarding, because my software experience is messing with me.
I guess in my mind, what I was thinking is just like becoming part of the Catalyst community, participating within Catalyst, maybe making proposals, being community advisor, adding some sort of value to the actual network. Onboarding is the process of being unfamiliar with Catalyst, or just being a little bit familiar with Catalyst or Cardano in generally, and then being introduced to the concept of what Catalyst is, what Cardano is, and then actually getting the process of actually actively contributing. Within that flow, yeah, go ahead.
Does it inherently mean though more than just getting people to download a wallet and do that much?
I would go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's like probably one of the first steps of onboarding. But if you just download a wallet and then you never come back, then you're that's not very good retention rate. It's just someone's downloads and they never come back. It's like signing up for a website and never visiting again. It's not. There's not a lot of value in that.
I would definitely say it includes more than education. It gets them, onboarding should really get them through to doing the action, some sort of action that they would want to do. So it's like, someone who comes in as an entrepreneur should be able to go for onboarding and create a proposal and understand and be able to do that process. Whatever that kind of person is and what background they have, the relevant things that are to them, they should be able to do at the end of onboarding. So I think it includes more than education. It includes just kind of like this kind of streamlined process. So how do you get from that know nothing to action as smooth as possible would be my 2 cents, my two Lovelaces.
Quasar, you're asking if it's also about onboarding voters, right? And I would personally say that's not the primary focus, right? Because I mean, it's mainly about growing the Catalyst ecosystem. And I mean, of course, voters are needed, right? But as long as a certain percentage of ADA participates in voting, I don't know if that's that should be a focus. Rather, that there are quality proposals, quality assessments, etc. So people who are engaged, and that there's a constant inflow of new people and new ideas. And so therefore, it's not sufficient just to explain what a wallet is or just what Cardano is about, but rather than get these people in.
Hey, Jacob, like introducing someone to a new concept, it's a long process a lot of times. And I guess what I'm going to get at is the first step of actually getting someone to actually onboard fully into the Catalyst ecosystem and really like adding that value beyond just voting is really just downloading that wallet. And then if you download a wallet and then actually participating in a vote, if someone's actually participating in voting, that's a good signal that they might be interested in learning more and going beyond that. So it's kind of like, I guess like a hot lead in business, right? It's like someone's interested enough to put in the time to vote. So now that's a signal that they might be interested in actually becoming a CA or educating themselves further. Ideally, we would want to like probably have a funnel where someone votes, then you have everyone who votes, and at that point, it's like, well, we want to have a more informed voter populace. We want people making very informed decisions, not just running through the proposals as quickly as possible and just saying, I vote yes, yes, no, no, yes, yes. Now I get my ADA reward. You want someone actually like really thinking critically about all the proposals. Someone votes first, maybe they just vote or whatever, but then they start to learn about the ecosystem. So I mean, I guess it's a whole process, right? And that first step is just voting in the onboarding process, right?
I would disagree a bit.
Okay.
So but I can just speak for me personally. So as I was introduced into this whole Catalyst ecosystem process, I didn't have anything to do with voting. And I mean, I had some ADA, but I wasn't participating in it. And I was just learning about the ecosystem for itself. And I think there are, for example, when you talk about businesses, right? They are not interested per se in holding ADA and participating in voting. So I would say it can be a road for some people who start to learn about voting because they can make some ADA with it and then go towards the route of Catalyst ecosystem. But there are a lot of different other routes as well that can be taken. So I think it can be a case that can be explored. So as a way, you start with voting and then you learn more and more, and then you get more engaged. But it can be also very different, that you are just thinking about business opportunities, right? And then you're getting engaged with the Catalyst ecosystem, the reward system, etc. And then later on, you're doing it for your all personal gain or because you think it's interesting to have ADA and vote.
Okay. So
yeah.
Yep. So that makes a lot of sense because there's different types of people are going to be onboarded in different ways and discover it. So maybe a place to start would be figuring out who the types of people are that are going to be interested in Cardano and building paths for them to get involved with the ecosystem.
Exactly. Defining personas.
Yep.
And then creating templates, what a good experience for them could be, right? And one would be just like crypto enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, right? Bigger companies, right? Who think completely different, right? Than just small businesses or like people who are, how do you say it? Freelancers or something like that. So, right? We're just looking for smaller opportunities.
Yep.
Whole different thought process behind
it. Go ahead. I should say I see two hands up, so I was going to call you, John.
I think that I think if we're able to see from externally, the largest attraction for everybody, pretty much everyone in the community, is still an entry point from a financial perspective. They're really looking at the value of cryptocurrency and, oh, what's this third largest crypto now? And that's an entry point for most people. I think that's certainly how I became aware of it. And once I was a holder, then I got, I started to see Catalyst mentioned, and then there was town halls, and then there was voting, and then there's project exposure, and now I'm talking about governance most weeks, which is a slow progressive path, but one that I think we're all familiar with. So I think probably what we're talking about is signposting for the most part, and that's where we're let down the most at the moment. If someone comes in from that wallet point of view, and another thing, I think that SPOs probably are a very strong avenue for onboarding people in its narrow defined way, Robert. So teaching people how to buy crypto, how to put it into a DeFi wallet called Daedalus or Yoroi, and then you can do more things with it. That is all part and parcel of running a stake pool. You need to have marketing, you need to have educational materials around onboarding, those sorts of activities. So I think that's probably quite well catered for already, because we've got a lot of very good YouTubers who are stake pool operators and things like that. But what we're really describing is onboarding for Catalyst, which then is slightly step removed, in that we need to bring people in from that initial wallet experience into this whole ecosystem of world improvement. And the sort of best place for that is to identify where actually people are finding that touch point. Is in fact, our strongest advertising or entry point the wallet itself? Should there be more real estate in the official wallets pointing people to Catalyst in a way that's not quite there or quite understood yet? And then that signposting can start to diverge the avatars or the personas into the routes into the ecosystem that we need to do. And I think there's been a lot of good work in that regard already. I mean, most people who are interested in Catalyst, now that I have conversation with, I point them to, I think, your page, George. The website does a very good job of breaking down some of those avatars and guiding them through whether they're a voter or a proposer or a CA or so it's those sorts of tools that are really valuable and need a high profile. And then also the just the sort of the education schools and incubators we've got are really, really valuable, and I don't think everyone finds them quickly enough. So now we've got the CA school, we've got Gimbal Labs and Swarm itself. These are endpoints that will really create stickiness, I think, for people coming into the ecosystem, and really valuable. I mean, so I think what we really want to talk about is onboarding is already got the most attention, and probably it's the reputation, knowing who to trust in the ecosystem, that is also part of the onboarding experience as well, is severely lacking at the moment, because you come in, you don't know anyone from anyone, and you don't have any trust, and that's the thing we need to engender quite quickly and to build out, and that's the reputation system. That's the point where we start to create value that people are attracted to and stay around for. So I've spoken enough, but yeah, reputation.
If I could jump in, I think you're absolutely right on the this kind of, like, I see on your Raw, you've got kind of the voting side, like you can register to vote there. But I feel there's like quite a bit of disconnect with a lot of things that happen in Cardano's side of like what's going on with protocols, this and that, and then Project Catalyst. I thought you could actually be involved with the Cardano side and kind of miss what's going on in Catalyst. And that kind of, there is kind of like it's not a really tight mix at the moment. And I think that if we had some, like, if it's like wallets, just like you could much more easily kind of do the voting or viewing things and bringing together things that are relevant, whether it's linking out to certain educational things as well that are more formalized, just slightly tighter links, then it just becomes much more of this kind of ecosystem kind of, oh, if you're here and you see something that's interesting and relevant, then you end up going to the thing that's like, oh no, it's much easier to get that exposure. And I think you're absolutely right. I've noticed the same thing. I see lots of people on Twitter, and I don't feel they see that much that goes on in Catalyst, and sometimes vice versa for me as well. I mean, because I spend so much time in Catalyst, there's some things in the Cardano side that you miss. So I think it's an ongoing thing, but lots of room for improvement. So I would definitely agree with what you mentioned. Quasar, unless anyone else had anything to say. Change your mind? He said pass in the chat. I don't know. He's playing hard to talk.
John?
Hey, Tyler.
John. How's it going?
Good. It's been a while. Yeah, I kind of wanted to shift topics a little bit, if that's all right.
Granted.
So with the onboarding, like, are we mostly talking about Catalyst, or can I talk about Cardano as well in general?
I'll allow it.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, with the Alonzo thing, smart contracts are available, but as a person not very into all the programming stuff, I don't really know how to do one. So it would be really cool if I could, within the Catalyst community, do smart contracts with people within it and be able to see the real world application versus, like, because I mean, I think DAOs are going to be the smart contract future. And so if I could be like my own business and I could see the actual real world implications of these smart contracts, I think that would onboard people a lot quicker.
Yeah, on the education side, I would say what Cardano is doing with their own documentation, and then what's going on in the open source side of the protocols and stuff is going to be the best place for all of that education on smart contracts. In terms of the Catalyst side, that would be useful, would be finding a project that you're interested in that you could get involved with, where that has that Plutus pioneer, that's someone who's going to be doing it from this side of the fence at the moment. Because, like, for instance, I wouldn't be doing any documentation on that. I don't know anyone in the Catalyst stuff who would be doing necessarily the Cardano education side that you're talking about. But there will be plenty of proposals that you could comment on or try and get involved with that would fit the bill, that have a Plutus element. That most of us are looking at DAOs and stuff. So I think that bit will also, yeah, go on, sorry.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, like, a real world application, because right now I have, like, I mean, I'm like the person you want to onboard pretty much. Like, I don't know anything about this stuff. I just invested and I went down the rabbit hole and I'm here right now. But, like, there's no real world application of these things. Like, I see my Cardano's going up. It's great, but I want to use it as like a tool more. Like, I just feel like it's just sitting there, like, and I'm just waiting on this, like, thing to happen one day, but it's not happening yet. And if I had like smart contracts, Quasar said, aren't available yet, right?
Well, they're available. He's back
on.
Quasar.
Well, anyways.
Go on.
Yeah, anyways, like, it's just, there's no real world application right now. I think that's the biggest problem to onboarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anyone else.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to solve here too, John, with this particular group of people is how can we get companies to come and build those real world applications, right, through Catalyst? Like, what can we do better?
Well, but do we need a company though? That's the issue I have. Like, is there
a person?
Right, but I don't know how to code.
Right.
It's
So there are people who knows how to code, right? Who needs to build the real world application, right? Like it's gonna take humans to build those applications. Catalyst is a resource that really helps with that. So how do we onboard people who can build these real world applications through Catalyst? Like what can we do? How can we right?
yeah, it's more than just onboarding builders. It's onboarding the ecosystem. You need to have voters, you need to have builders, you need to have a community that can actually grow together. And the builders is like a big part of it. John, yeah, definitely get into the Buddhist Pioneers program. Do it. But I think you make a good point, John, in that like part of onboarding is having something flashy and interesting that you can play with and see smart contracts actually working in real time. That sound and some sort of product that resonates with your own personal interests that you can use your Cardano with. And like I think that is part of the onboarding process. If someone finds an application that's cool and they like interacting with it, it's a smart contract application, maybe somewhere within that smart contract application they find out that that's actually a community owned application that's a sub community of the Catalyst community, and then people within that community help run that application, and then people also work within Catalyst there, and that could be an onboarding path there. So yeah, but I mean, right, smart contracts just went live recently, and yeah, well, I think, go ahead.
Well, one thing I for the Catalyst is I really like I don't know if Steven's in here, but the graph DAO, like showing DAOs as a graph, like stuff like that. Like that's a really interesting project for onboarding, I think.
What do you mean by showing graphs of DAOs as onboarding?
It's in the Fund 6. It's a proposal in Fund 6. It's Graph DAO, I think, is what it's called. You guys haven't seen this?
No.
Yeah, I think someone Stephen in it. Stephen and maybe Randall. It's the visualization of DAOs. Yeah, it's got a really good visualization. I think that's kind of maybe where you're going with that. Is it's really good for visualizing. Yeah, it's a very visual kind of tool. So I think I resonate with that a lot. I'm a visual learner as well. So having different ways to see a structure or something, and for instance, DAOs is a really important one. Massive value. This is all going to be part of this kind of onboarding as well. I think onboarding is one of the things of these three things we're looking at: reputation, rewarding, and onboarding. Onboarding is the one that we can really tackle now. Like it's the one where it's just like we can bring together things and start making this more symbiotic relationship between RHK and the community to improve that. We don't need, Atala Prism is a really important part for these other two, but the onboarding stuff is something we can really push forward now, and it's the stuff I'm going to be working on. So, are you in the Discords and stuff, John? In the Catalyst Swarm stuff? You're in the Swarm one and the community one? Cool, yeah. So in those chats,
I'm all onboarded.
You're in the rabbit hole. You're in the rabbit hole. So I'll be posting things feverishly in there, crap. So if you just keep tapping away on things like that, I think hopefully we can go on.
But if like there's a way within Catalyst, like we could exchange like ADA or something in some sort of games or some sort of like just a way to get familiar with the actual sending money and all that stuff, because it's just NFTs too, because I just feel like I'm not even using what I have right now. It's just sitting.
I say this is all coming. Go on.
I've seen lots of videos where they ask you to send Cardano and they'll send back twice as much.
You learn pretty quick.
No.
But wait, exactly though, because if we do it within the Catalyst community though, it's people we actually trust.
Well, then we're back to the reputation system, because how do we know we actually trust it?
Well, we have to exchange small amounts at first.
Build up the pyramid, right?
Beat
I mean,
connect.
hey, the transaction fees go back into Catalyst too.
Is this a dumb idea? I mean, shouldn't there be like a mailing list somewhere?
Or
Newsletter, hey, you're on
There
board. Thank you for joining the Cardano system. Here where you should go to find. I mean, I am a new Cardano member too. And wow, when someone sent me like less than 250,000 links for Discord channels, I really, my jaw dropped. I mean, I'm being funny. I love the richness of the ecosystem, but for a new person, it's a little daunting. So maybe just like a newsletter comes out once a week, says this is what's going on. If you're interested in this, go here. I almost missed the virtual summit, and I've been doing this stuff every week.
So
yeah, sorry.
too much information. It's like information overload, and then it's hard for you to find what information is most relevant to yourself, to what you want to do. Yeah, I think there isn't there a mailing list? I get emails sometimes.
There is a Catalyst related one
Yeah.
that Danny, I think, shares every now and then. There definitely is a mailing list, but it's similar information to the Telegram announcements chat. It's basically similar information. I mean, it's a bit more fleshed out than the Telegram announcements one, but there is a mailing list. Yeah, you think you'll find it in the slides, I think.
Ken's had his hand up for a long time.
We almost need a.
Ken.
Ken's been having them.
Oh, I was just going to say something about the graph idea. Like some of the ideas I've been thinking about, one of my proposals is about distributed collaboration. And like with a graph structure, like one of the things I'm thinking about is sort of building up an idea graph so that you can sort of map out the space of what different people are thinking about, and then maybe having some sort of some way of taking the interest that someone new to the community has and using some sort of simulation, like a physics simulation that would move them in the direction of ideas that they're interested in, something along those lines. Like it's with a graph, it's not just about visualization, it's about the structure of how things interact with each other. And I think as far as the reputation and onboarding, a lot of those things can just naturally fall out of having the correct structure for how you like get someone to the next idea that they might be interested in looking at. Like as far as our conversation here, like when you're talking to other people in a video conference call, you're sort of building reputation between people, and if you have a way of like attaching some history for like there's the whole idea of web of trust, where like people interacting with you sort of gives you a chance to build your reputation. Like they can say, oh, this person knows something, or this is something that this person is good at. And then you can sort of build up a history, and that can just be associated with like a wallet address. Like you don't just have to have one. Like any given reputation history that you build up, if you're the one who has access to it, then it would be clear if something changes regarding your reputation in some certain field.
I'd start with if you've been thinking about that for a while, we need to have more of a chat, because it's an area I actually want to spend a lot of time on after some of the proposals I have now. Is how it's the edges. We got the nodes of each person and then how we connect. That's the kind of the next level. The VCs and DIDs and the credential things, issuing credentials, is like the layer one basics. That's great, but it's how can we kind of make this kind of mesh web of this trust, this reputation, all these different kind of characteristics and stuff. And I'm in the early stages of seeing other stuff in the Ethereum stuff, like Bright ID and all these kind of anti-Sybil networks. But I love that space. So I'd love to chat offline. I mean, I could obviously chat about that for quite a while, but I'd love to chat about that more offline from at least my perspective. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything. Great eyes in.
How many people here on the call would be an AML or KYC option included in a wallet or a distributed identity or digital identity solution?
Sorry, say that. How many would be fine with it? Or sorry.
Yeah, like just on this call, because I'm working on a wallet that's more of a credential system, but it includes the AML and KYC thing. So,
what are those acronyms?
Anti-money laundering and know your customer.
Yeah. If you use any exchange, they'll be asking you for it basically, and where you have to show your passport and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Keep a note of you. Yeah.
I think it's just using it for certain purposes, maybe not for everything.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm
if it was optional,
fine.
it'd be
cool. Quasar, I have a question for you. So your wallet incorporates, it's going to incorporate NYC AML into it. And does that mean you always hold that information just in your wallet? And when you visit various exchanges or whatnot, instead of actually having to upload your passport to these various exchanges, they just need to know that like either A, you're like who you are, or B, you shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, that's probably more like Fund 8 or 9 integration with all the exchanges. The main reason that I'm building it out this way is because I can issue insurance directly through a wallet or an app with the AML or the KYC. So,
but where are you storing all of those AML credentials? Where do they
with a
live?
third party. It's not stored on blockchain or anything like that.
Are they being used just to verify existing credentials, like your whether it's a passport or something? Like you've already got existing government issued stuff, and you're using a third party to then be like, yeah, cool. So they're the ones who are like, they're trusted as a governance structure for getting this kind of credential to go onto this wallet, your system. So be like, I have a credential for this. We use this third party that we're trusting to verify. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So the third party is like an Oracle.
Wow.
Nope.
No.
It's not decentralized. I think it's a third party company.
It's
which
just,
would be
it's just like any Web 2 app that we use nowadays, is that you need some form of, you hand over your email address, and sometimes it's more, sometimes it's your phone, sometimes your home address, sometimes it's your entire life history. It all depends on the value that you're giving in return, you're getting in return for that. So I'm quite happy.
It's like an Oracle, but not really.
If I'm getting a valuable insurance policy from you, then yeah, I'm happy to make sure that you know who I am and I know who you are. So yeah, that works for me.
This brings up a good conversation about reputation for dApps and wallets, right? Like building this reputation. I mean, a big risk vector is wallets and dApps providing services and people assuming it's decentralized when it's not decentralized. But
and there's definitely going to be this in middle step where we're going to have quite a few of kind of like at least the things we've got to trust before we can get to anything. There's going to be options. I think there's always going to be these, like with self-sovereign identity, there's always going to be government trusted institutions and these third parties that do kind of steps, and it's just kind of like they may reduce over time, but we're going to need a lot of things where there's still trust everywhere at the end of the day. So yeah, I'd agree. I think a lot of people are going to be very unaware of what the trust situation is for using this specific thing. It's like it requires these 3 trust things, here's a point that you might be concerned about, but it might not be actually exposed to you on an information way to actually know about it. So I think it's me quite rocky. Did you have anything else, Fraser, or is your hand still raised? Does anyone else?
I think in that regard, if we're looking at a reputation system, that we just need something now in the community to start recognizing people's contributions with the intention to give them some sense of authority, or to be part of that signposting path that we're pointing people to known good actors. Then, if we don't, if we're sitting around waiting for Prism, we're just delaying things that are problems now. You know what I mean? So if there's a trusted third party that we can all agree on, okay, it's centralized, but it's holding some reputation information for us as a community. Ideally that would be maybe a database hosted by IOG or CF or something. But I think that would be a initial rapid, okay, this is where we're starting to accumulate some reputation information. And Tyler, you've got that Secret X have got the source cred server trialing out at the moment, and that's gathering people's activity on the Discord, and that's accumulating reputation about people's engagement in the community on the Discord server, and that's a metric that's measuring people's value to the community, in my mind, which is an indicator of their reputation, of their worth, of their potential authority down the road. So things like that I really rate and think we need to to get people talking about, to raise awareness, so that people can decide whether they're comfortable with that or not. And if we get the go ahead to start building up that reputation in a non self-sovereign identity pseudonymous environment, then that's something that's going to be useful where we are right now. If it can be replaced by a better system down the road, then obviously that's what we want to do. But I just feel like we've got so much pace, we've got so much build up, we've got people flocking to the ecosystem, and we need to be able to start capturing the best people and putting them in the most high profile positions to make sure that we're keeping we're putting the right face forward, and we're bringing people into the system with positive experiences, because without any doubt, not to speak negative, there will be some cases of bad actors coming in and trapping people and pull them into what they think is Catalyst, and they won't be Catalyst, there'll be some offshoot, and it's those sorts of things that the reputation system can combat and can help mitigate. So I think it's important, and it needs some fast work. And so I was just saying to Ocho, I think the rapid funding, if that challenge does come about, then this is an ideal place to get some reputation, put funding off the back of it, some and then eventually some rewarding as well. And recognition, certainly, like you said at the beginning, Tyler, is very valuable. But ultimately, we're looking at building an ecosystem that is sustaining people's livelihoods. People need to have a system that they can say, okay, I can feed my family on this if I put my worth and effort into it, and I can do that in a sustainable way, which we don't have at the moment. There's no sustainable way to create an income from Catalyst if you're having to write proposals and be at the risk of a public vote each time. If actually we can have reputation building up that gives you a position where it's like a funded position, or some assurance, if you keep working, then we'll keep paying, then that seems to be a good direction to start building on the back of what we have in Catalyst already. So some new ideas in there.
Yeah. I would love to definitely agree with there's definitely some kind of Web 2 non-Atala Prism requiring kind of tests that we could be doing now, because I think that's the problem with the rewarding and reputation kind of branch of this kind of conversation. Is there's a lot of great ideas that kind of require have this step, and I think yeah, what's going on with secret decks and just some of these ideas. Even if like the Swarm could do something as well involved with these after town halls, some sort of like testing ground where it gets added to a database. Like it's just something that's nice and easy. I think I'm going to make a note of that. I want to bring it up in the chat and see if there's anything that's worth just testing out, and then also maybe it's getting starting off that feedback loop on something we can quickly implement, because it wouldn't take very long to trial out things. So yeah, I think there could be something there that's worthwhile whilst we're waiting, because
Have we thought about, I guess first, like, reputation has a lot to do with like retention, right? Like if you're tracking reputation and people can see that they're building reputation within a system, they're going to be more likely to want to stay a part of that system. Do we have numbers on like how many people come to the Catalyst Discord server? How many people sign up into the Catalyst Discord server? How many people are active? How many people sign up and just leave? Is there anybody kind of tracking those sorts of numbers?
You bet for
like retention, like retention
Yeah.
rate, like how many people are introduced to Catalyst and start actively participating versus how many people are introduced and just leave?
I think it's valuable. I get you'd have to talk to Felix and some of the admins in. I'm doubting it at the moment that's being looked at.
I think Stephen Aldrich would probably have the best idea of that. He
Yeah.
seems to be pretty on top of things like.
Because we would want to, if we're going to be building these systems, and the goal of these systems is to kind of build the community and build the community more quickly in a way that people feel like they're valued, we'd need to have some sort of metrics, like a set of metrics to kind of like measure whether or not we're successful in what we're doing, and then use those to kind of guide us and where we can change and make pivots or whatever.
As like we could have small tools for just some of these the things we are using in Web 2, and if we have a way to track it, we have that kind of automation script, whatever, working for that. And as soon as we might have a manual process where someone in the community in the trusted positions, whether it's Catalyst, Circle, or Swarm or something, vets something. There could be some trust there, but then that they could push that into some of the stuff that's coming with the Web3. So you actually have you're starting to collect this stuff and it has some value. But then you have some manual process in the short term, but you could actually push it into something that starts to create, starts that, because like anything, it's nothing to be perfect at the start. But I think that there's something there. I like the idea of this, maybe having a set of tools that track a few things, if seeing what's off the shelf, and then how we could pipe what makes sense into initially. Maybe it's just like a public, open bit of data, but then the next step is like attaching it to the actual person. Oh, I own this did. Yeah. I want to take that data.
How do you attach it to the person?
So this would be kind of for the Web3, it would be they would have their own wallet and they'd have a did that they own, and then you'd attach this information. It could be through a credential, gets issued to that did. So that would be like a Web3 thing. For Web2 stuff, it could be attached to like a social account login potentially, but I don't know if you'd necessarily need it. You could develop that maybe, but it'd be attached to a did for whatever data you're extracting, and then it's being kind of verified in some way. Is that?
And no money involved.
There doesn't. With a lot of reputation things, there doesn't need to be money involved. There could be obviously, the reputation side. It's data about engagement that could be used. Let's say I'm, contributed in this many conversations or this many Git commits or whatever it is you're tracking. That could be put into a credential that's to do with reputation, but then that could lead on to the actual next steps, which is like, we can use some of these reputation-based things to think about what the compensation and rewarding side. So both can apply, but you could just have ones that are just contribution, just like time.
Yeah. Very good.
I started trying to think about all the different ways that people are contributing to the community and that are either tangible or intangible. They're just being around and being helpful and being happy. It's a very useful thing to the community. So I'll just list some of them off. So there's we've got Stack Exchange, and there are badges being created by people on there who are helping out people with questions in the wider community. They've got all sorts of various NFT awards that have been given out. Steve Aldridge has done some, Spotcrow have done some, New Mindflow, for IdeaFest hosts. Being an IdeaFest host as well is a good contribution. We've got session hosts for Gimbal Labs, for Swarm, for CA School now as well. We've got on a couple of Discord channels, we've trialed the honor bot, which is where you just mention somebody and they and apply an honor point to them. And then there's like a leaderboard of how many honor points someone's got. That could be used. We've got roles on the Discord servers. They denote some kind of value. If you've been given a role or you've claimed a role, whether that's just being, whether you're a staple operator or a playground attendee or something, these are valuable. The source grid stuff actually lets you track emoji responses and conversations on Discord. So if somebody's heavily engaged by just giving people thumbs up and clapping a lot, that's a contribution to the community. It's creating that emotional stability and security that's actually got value to it. So that could be another indicator towards some reputation system. We've got the Catalyst Circle candidates as well now. That's kind of like our highest profile roles in the community, that's not specifically IOG or CF. So that's, and that's only a 3-month position, so it will be rolling. So there's we could assign a chunk of reputation points for taking on that role. We've got our CAs and our VCAs. There's all these sorts of things that could be feeding into some, and the idea is to try and prevent the gaming. If you've got all these things being brought together to accrue some reputation, then you make it far harder to game, because nobody can be doing all these things, and everybody is doing some of these things. So it's a far, a wide, shotgun approach to it is probably safer than just going, okay, let's award points for this one in this one method, which is then very gameable, because it's like, okay, I can play that game because I've been playing games my whole life. That's what we were raised on, isn't it? So I think that's a really good, and we've got kudos in idea scale as well. All the proposers, we've got people who have been funded through Catalyst already, and we've got things like seniority as well. Who was here in Fund 1? That's kind of a reputation thing as well. It could be pegged and tracked and recognized. So it steps scarily into sort of surveillance, which is where we need to think about it carefully, because we don't want to end up recreating Facebook, with all its inherent problems. We want to create something that is recognizing and accruing reputation for somebody without tracking them and giving them no escape once they're in. So the start should be small, and maybe not the ideal solution. So maybe that is just a Web 2 type approach. But like I said before, it can morph into a Web 3 where it gets more, the ability to make it pseudonymous or anonymous becomes stronger. And just owning a wallet is a step on the journey, isn't it? If you've got an address that you can say, I have an ADA wallet. That's a good thing.
Yep.
And we've got all these different tokens and things cropping up. There's all sorts of different ways we could recognize and just acknowledge people in the community.
Jonathan, who is the royal we in all this?
You, me, everyone in this room, everyone outside the room.
What kind
No,
of
sorry, I mean, you went into a long list of really good things. I totally support all of the tokens, the rewards, but we're talking, this meeting is about a completely different type of reward, surely. It's another level, and their level, that's why I say hierarchy. You have to expect that you have to have levels. your whole speech then was the worst I've heard you say, which is all about the lower level. But at the middle level, you've got to pay people to reward them with money. But at the high level, you reward them with, you put in 3 years of work into Catalyst to create such and such a result.
Well,
Surely.
yeah, that's got to be part of it as well. So, like I said, if you've got seniority, if you've been here from the beginning, then that needs recognizing as well. But everyone's got to start somewhere, and if you can be building up, maybe it's a new native token that's our community currency and has no monetary value to start with. But down the road, it could do.
Very, very good.
And that's sort of part of that source cred system as well. You have cred. Shall I?
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure, John.
So what's the issue with having ADA as the, like, why do we need a native token?
Well, a native token, we can start using it, and it's free to make, right? But if we create value through Catalyst, there is the possibility that native token that had no value in the beginning ends up having value in the future, depending on how we design like the actual tokenomics of that token.
Strictly
plus if we're using ADA, that's just like, it's a lot of ADA to be spreading around. And if we're testing,
well, that's what we want,
testing
though.
but if we're testing a concept, we want to be testing something with that's, I don't know, like, we're not just spending a ton of money to validate.
But we have to find somebody to give us a load of ADA, don't we?
Yeah.
The benefit is you could make it, it's completely programmable. You could be like, just this token deals with this system. So like if it's ADA and you wanted to have some sort of governance system that was just relevant to these token holders, you'd want to have like a separate token. So it's like, you have to, this is part of this ecosystem. If it was ADA, then anyone could just come in and, like, maybe that token's earned by doing certain contribution things to build reputation. So then you're using that token as like the reward for it that constitutes like how you do your DAO. So like it's whatever kind of ecosystem you want to make around that token. It means that you can develop that exactly to the specification of what you want. Whereas if you just had used ADA, it means anyone in the community could, if you start using governance or using ADA, then anyone could, the biggest whale who's already in the community who has nothing to do with that ecosystem would suddenly have massive governance effects on that.
Well, you could put a cap on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's many ways to skin this cat. Like, there's. You could use ADA, but you could also kind of develop things around the token that has its separate ecosystem that's very kind of separate. So it's more of a choice thing rather than both options could work. So
it's non-tradable. That it has to be non-tradable, non-movable, non-convertible. It sticks with
so
that.
Which of these things can we do tomorrow?
Sorry?
Which of all the different ideas we've had, what can we start working on tomorrow?
We can make a list of metrics that we want to measure that might go towards reputation. We can think about stats that we want to track in Discord. Like what stats do we need to be tracking within Discord in the onboarding process to ensure that we're doing a good job of onboarding people are staying within the system. Another thing we want to think about is what are the dangers of creating a reputation system? How do we mitigate centralized control of a reputation system? Those are the three main points. I need to jump off the call, guys. So I definitely appreciate everyone's time and talking.
Thank you.
Just have a little bit of an emergency I got to take care of.
Okay.
I see. Right.
Hey, darling.
Guys.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Catch you later.
Good to see you.
Darlington, I've got an answer for you as well. For the identity, and this ties directly into Atala Prism. Atala uses the side tree protocol, which is also who Microsoft uses for their decentralized identity. So I'm looking for some people that are up for assisting with looking at side tree and integrating it. Ultimately, we're going to have a whole bunch of different identity overlays or network layers. And SideTree, since it's with Atala Prism and with Microsoft, that's, you know, two of the big, you know, one, it suits us, and two, gets us access to broader mainstream usage.
Do you want to have you shared that? Oh, okay, is that shared in the chat? That SideTree.
Yeah.
That Nori shared there.
Yeah, and I mean, Prism just uses SideTree, Web3 credentials, and Hyperledger version of it. So
I would take a look at that. Is it, so that's something that you're working on? Like, is that something easy for someone to work on? You already know you've talked to someone in who's working on Atala Prism and verified that, you know, you've got that answer. You've got that answer. Someone say, for instance, I haven't seen that anywhere public, so I'm pissing in the wind of seeing that, of understanding that.
yeah. And John, you were in the call with Denal. I mean, not Denal, but John O'Connor. I think you and I probably heard different things on the call, but he did mention SideTree and
did he mention
Web3 standards?
Call? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember talking about obviously the base kind of standards, but I didn't remember talking about that SideTree specifically. So if that is the case, then I just missed it because it was a long enough conversation.
Yeah, it was long, and I heard what I needed, which was basically Atala Prism not going to be released for a long time, and it's an enterprise solution that's totally centralized, and it's more of a credential and digital identity than you know, decentralized ID. What we think of, what we want it to be.
Interesting. I need to go through it again properly.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe
it said SideTree. I just didn't understand. I didn't have no context for it, so I didn't understand. But I definitely heard him say he was going to open source Atala Prism, and someone thanked him for that.
It's already fucking open source, man. It's all SideTree's open source. Web3, the whole Identity Foundation, it's all open source. Atala Prism is just a really nice wrapper. Really great marketing.
Really?
Yeah, but sometimes.
And I'm saying that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say JavaScript was open source, but when jQuery came along, it became much more useful. So I think some people like that fancy wrapper. If you don't know what jQuery is, you're good. You don't need to know. It's just a wrapper around JavaScript that made it actually useful. But so it is good that they're doing that, because I mean, I'm sure whatever wrapper they're releasing, they didn't crank it out in a weekend. They probably spent months and years putting that together. And it'd probably be a better place to start than to start from the bottom of the SideTree stuff. But I haven't looked into SideTrees though.
Yeah, SideTree is the bottom of Atala. It's the core. It's what Atala uses and runs. And
I thought it was on Jormungandr, a version of
which I didn't. That's what they're doing the voting. They're doing the voting on Jormungandr. Yeah, I don't know how to say that word. Everything's to do with Catalyst and voting. That's what's going on there. I don't think I've heard the statement that that's anything to do with the Atala Prism stuff.
Okay, maybe.
So,
Atala is completely blockchain agnostic. It'll work on any blockchain, and it'll work completely off blockchain. It does not need a blockchain. Same as Plutus and Marlowe, if you didn't know. Yeah. And speaking of onboarding, how I got onboarded into this system was through Atala Prism. I watched the video, and it was the one thing that made me say, okay, Cardano is where I'm going to hitch my wagon. So I'm quite intimate and personal with it.
So how long have you spent with SideTree yourself? Are you saying you spent a lot of time on that yourself, or people you work with have, or?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw it, I reached out to IOHK and spoke to John and Denal, and Josh, a bunch of people, because you know, it mentioned now that you got this ID, now you can go get insurance. And I'm like, I wish it was that easy. That's not at all how insurance really works. So I reached out, and we've been going back and forth about some business opportunities.
I'm going to take a closer look at this. But yeah, I think the point Darlington made is also valid. It's like there's going to be people. I want to look at that, but I think there's going to be people who are going to be. It might be easy for them to wait for this wrapper, let's call it, that Atala Prism going to provide. Back on some of the things, I guess, that what we can do now that I think have come out of this. I think on the onboarding side, there's this change proposal stuff that can be worked on straight away. We can look at what kind of makes sense for that. There's this, and the reason for that is so we can kind of push for something I've been looking at, the Git books on the onboarding. So getting some kind of system where RHK and the community share a Git book for Project Catalyst to aggregate these resources. That's something that can be worked on very soon. I think on the reputation side, this having what was Jonathan was going through, that massive list, having that list and kind of just kind of have a way to kind of look at it all and be like, what are the top things here that we could do? One, from a Web 2 standpoint that we could just start doing now, or we already have. And then and obviously just having that kind of rough idea of what's most important to be prepared for the Web3 stuff. So just having the reputation stuff, a list that the community is starting to aggregate of like how we could start to tackle reputation would be a great idea to kind of create a catalyst for other people giving like, oh, I'll take over this one, I'll do this one, I'll do that one. And then we might have 5, 6, 10 options and have that kind of a few different things going on. So I feel those are 3 very easy things we can start doing now to help us get to these next steps. I don't think I've not heard anything. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but I've not say hello, Peter, or anything. It's Peter, Ed, Callie. I don't know if you wanted to say anything. Like obviously you've been, or if you wanted to on a back seat, of course. But I'm just worried that you haven't had the chance to say anything. I don't know if you wanted to give your perspective or anything, but no, obviously obligation to do that. Just try.
No, I just came in halfway through, so I've missed quite a lot of what you were talking about, but it's very interesting, especially thinking about how you record reputations without making it a popularity contest.
Yeah, it's been an excellent conversation to listen to, guys. I very much appreciated Jonathan's wisdom, and he's painted broad strokes for us here. Anyway, as far as his reputation system, yeah, we that's what we were worried about at the beginning of the conversation, or at least there was someone voicing their opinion about how they feel like it already is that. So we're diving into those solutions, or how to create solutions for that problem.
It does seem to be the one that we're coming back to a lot the most, is reputation, from all this whole entire conversation. It's a big one. It's a never-ending list of ideas, I think, and ways to do it, and it's never going to be perfect. I think it's going to be one of those never going to be perfect situations as well.
Yeah, I think like the visualizations of tracking silly things like who's doing the thumbs up, like can we, however we start visualizing that, where people like, we have to see more of that. Like the kudos thing works. It's like very structured. You get 1 a day, you get to spend it. Like we need something a little more like liquid, That's why I was like when you get a kudo every day, but could you get a point every time you clicked around? Like the more you look, I mean that obviously that could be gained probably, but if we're like pulling different, like if it one one part of the credibility system is your clicks, you know, and then the other part is like the connections of people you have, you know, and then maybe there's some layer that tracks your not your communications with the people inside of your network, but the fact that you communicated, you know, and then, you know, that could go into credibility, some sort of credibility like mechanism. And so it's the, in order to make decentralized like reputation work, you have to have a lot of different people tracking a lot of different stuff, and then that visualization gets aggregated into something that a community like this, you know, I don't know, that then you kind of have to just have communities and dashboards of ideas that literally get voted on by everybody or a majority, and it has to start organically like this now. So
I love the idea of getting increasing amount of this different data sources, and then some DAO would help with like doing the weightings, because like there's gonna be different things that are more valuable than others, and it'll be like an organic kind of, you have a starting point where you have, let's say, 10 things, it goes up towards 50 things, but then some of them get better, some of them become more games, and the weighting of them is just kind of like a policy that's agreed within a main community or a sub community, and it's kind of like, this is weighted really important in this community, these certain characteristics of doing these actions, doing this engagement. And it starts with just having, I think, just like you said, lots of inputs, and then each community will decide, do I give a shit about that input? Is it important to us? Does it show anything? It's a good characteristic or something that's worthy. I think that's a good progression, a good idea for going from
incentivizing. You need to start talking about looking for those type, or tracking those types of inputs. I know like Steven is bulk tracking like all sorts of stuff, and can't even like fathom all of it, you know. But there's other, sorry, I'm getting a call now. There's other all these other tools that Jonathan was mentioning earlier that can be somehow like maybe, you know, put in a list that we should all like start looking at, you know, and then that's I feel like I'm stumbling around here, but
I think this having this list is the starting point, and then having someone who can start tackling them. Like we've already got Tyler saying the Discord stuff. I'm starting to see a path now to how we can slowly get there, and it's like anything, not an overnight thing, but I think there's starting to see at least something. Where's this list of what?
I dropped a link to all those things that I mentioned on the Miro board that Tava is maintaining for the town halls.
It's that time we spent an hour on a Miro board. Let's go. Oh wait, what?
Jonathan, it's amazing. I don't know what's going on. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm a host on this.
Absolutely wild, man.
Thank you for the side tree links, Nori, as well. That's cool. I shall follow you down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I didn't realize anyone was on there.
If I sign up, can you follow me?
Can you follow people?
Yes, I think I can only follow you if you. I have to know which guest thinker you are currently.
Free.
I reckon you're that one that's going everywhere.
Continue collaborating.
Oh Jesus Christ! Well, people have been using. They have.
Who keeps the database? Who's Miro? Get started free today. Sign up with Google.
Yeah.
Right, I'm doing review the terms to sign up. I agree. Continue to sign up.
All right. This is proper onboarding right here. This is how you do it. Takes 15 of us.
Are you free for videos?
Honestly, this is how I've been onboarding people though. Like, oh, come here, let me show you. Let me show you how to scale. Now check your email. Man, what a nightmare. But I love it. You know, I love it. Everything's great. It's an
This is why
experiment.
you need rewarding for it, Quasar. This
Oh
is why
my
you should have your
God.
reputation, have it recognized, get it rewarded.
Yeah.
There you go.
But,
Hey, am I in? Just tell me, am I in?
Yeah, you're in. You're one of us now. You're a Myrowinian. Myrowinian.
There we go.
What color skin have I got?
Are you on a computer?
So what happens though with this? Because is this a professional tool? It looks very professional in a funny sort of way.
Yeah, it's something the community's been using for a little while basically, and it's good for this brainstorming. So, but it's obviously a separate SaaS company, some software as a service company that we've just found, something the community's found, and then it's just become fairly regular as just somewhere to dump ideas, bring things together, kind of map things out. So you'll see this in most after town halls. Someone will be doing this using the Miro board.
I think it's Tavo and Tavo and Tavo all the way through.
Tavo is yeah. I don't want to say names, but it's Tavo. Yeah.
I don't know if he's made from Miro or Miro's made from Tavo. I'm not sure which way around it is, but yeah.
Tavo and I have 5 user accounts on Miro.
One way to stay pseudonymous.
So how do you talk on Miro? How do you take a time? How do you agree?
Yeah, it's got voting systems on here.
I'll do my own research. All right.
You can embed PowerPoint presentations. Does everything.
Oh, I'm good with them.
Oh. Right.
Member reputation. All that is that what's member reputation? Contributing factors to a reputation system.
That's the thing that I dropped in there. That was the list I was reading from.
Cardano Forum badges, Catalyst Circle candidate, funded proposals. Is that you? You clever boy. And then that all culminates to a member reputation by looking at the graph.
That's what I reckon should happen.
I'm gonna.
And that's your work. That's your work, Jonathan. Quasar's now there. Hello, Quasar. Well, you could use this. You can use this with Zoom. Perfect. Or use it with a telephone. Swarm session host, Gimbal app session host.
I think I had the same reaction from the Miro as well. Like, what? You can. This is the blockchain and smart contracts. You can do everything here. Where, if you name me, I'll be in Miro or Miro. Like that's it.
Where's Quasar?
Yes.
Yeah, he was speaking. He's right here. He's in the Miro board. In the Miro board.
Look, I'm 66 years old. I'll put my fucking video on.
Yeah, I've made a note to take this list whether it's on this Miro board or in a list somewhere, we should kind of flesh out this kind of list of different kind of ideas and what's relevant to each role, or it's like a general thing to kind of start to aggregate this, and then start sharing it continuously into reputations about who wants to attack one of these, who's doing one of these, and it could be things that are very specific to Catalyst. I think there's that side of the list. Hey. And then the other side of the list, which is like these Web 2 tools, Discord, your Slack, all these kind of things where people, that data might be useful. And I think between those two things, we'll have enough of a list and people who are working on different things to have the starting building blocks to something that can slowly move into something. Would be my initial thoughts. I don't know if you would agree with that, Jonathan.
Yeah, now I'd love to see this, and yeah, if we can tackle it all together, that's going to be the only way it happens, because it's just too. I mean, well, for a start, as a reputation system should come from the bottom up, I think. So multiple members tackling it, and I think it can lead to some really good outcomes. One thought I had off the back of this: once we've got some kind of scoring for reputation or whatnot, then we could assign community badges that then approves you for taking on a role in the whole signposting of people through onboarding. So and I was thinking specifically, and I tied it to sort of the immune system for people who you can turn to for help if you're seeing something bad. They could be funded to tackle YouTube's scams, things like that.
Yeah.
You could have, or some gaming of the CA process. Maybe they could have, and people like, he's not in the room, Stephen, are already sort of, they're fulfilling that role because they're tracking, because they're creating an oversight structure for Catalyst. He's actually, because I don't know anyone else is doing it to the extent that he is. He's actually giving us that foundation for creating, a role that we give to someone, we pay for someone to make sure that we've got some security, some safety. We could also have a dopamine badge, I thought, and that could just be the people who are the warm, friendly fuzzies who get people on board, who make them feel welcome, who show them the signs, ask them what they're interested in, what they want to see, connect them with people who can really make them, quickly form relationships. I think it's a really good thing to do. And I had another one as well. And then adrenaline, and they could be like the marketing people, the upfront shouting about it. They're creating the buzz, creating the hype. They're the ones that will pick up the controversial topics and shout about it. We've got Rick McCracken shouting at people on Twitter daily, smacking the ETH maxis left, right, and center every opportunity. That could be, and he's got a large platform. He's got a big YouTube channel, and there's other YouTubers. They could be, the people we signpost. If you want to get your message out there and you're willing, then go see these guys. And so, if all that's born off reputation, which has been aggregated through, longevity in the community, activity in the community, a proven track record of behaving well, and having the best interests of the network, the community at heart. I think that's the way to do it, and I think it's probably more valuable than a voting system.
The hierarchy. You have to have the hierarchy. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a bad word.
I mean, we have to be conscious of where hierarchy has failed us and where it consistently fails us. In all different areas of life, in corporate or in political arenas in particular.
But you can't. It's an animal instinct. it's so that you have to incorporate that. It's like accepting decentralized against centralized. I mean, and if you hide from it, you get nowhere. You have to face it, and that I think is the confidence of the reputation system. You know, reputation is about having confidence. Competence is in the hierarchy. You can demote someone as much as you can promote them.
Yeah, I think with these reputation systems, it would be like the person who's the most engaged in the different forms of reputation would naturally have some natural kind of form of hierarchy because they're more valuable to the ecosystem. So I think it's a naturally occurring thing in some regards, but it's not fixed like, oh, you are like, you know, there's delegated roles. There's roles that you might do in the community. It's like I'm in the catalyst circle. So by nature of doing this role, I have there's some form of hierarchy, but it's like, it's very light. That's the thing. It's not like
responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's more responsibilities and what you do and your contributions that lead to reputation is kind of somewhat level of hierarchy, but it's very, very flat, I think.
And it has to be born from a legitimacy that's given to person for a particular remit, particular scope, for a particular time. It shouldn't be something that necessarily perpetuates, you know, eternally. It should be something that's, and like we said earlier, it can't be traded. So you can't just hand off your reputation to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
But why not? Like, I don't understand. I mean, seriously, reputation. If I've earned something through my reputation, then I'm at will to use it how I want. If I want to share it with someone, then I should be able to.
Yeah, but we're trying to reduce chaos too. Like,
good luck with that.
Well, at least try. Yeah, that's why term limits and stuff. Like, that's why you have to create a cycle that is consistent.
You sell your reputation. You have that reputation. It's gone. You go right down to the bottom of the hierarchy. You sold off it. I sold my reputation.
There you go.
Yeah. What is
you are in the gutter.
I think you can maybe exchange your reputation for some fiscal reward.
Yeah,
that'd be
think
fine.
you should be able. You could sell out exactly.
But your reputation itself, you can't give to somebody else.
I'm trying to think of like Quasar. I'm trying to think of that use case of like who would you sell it to and why would it be valuable for both the seller and the buyer? Like what is there some good examples of that?
You know what's funny is I never once mentioned selling it to anyone. I was just going to give it away, but thank you for keeping me a proper capitalist.
Okay, give it away then. What's
unless it
what's
turns
good for
into
you
money,
there?
you're just gonna have souls of people who have died out here, you know? Like, what are you gonna do with that? Unless it turns into something to like transfer that value, like you're just gonna have souls on the block, like on whatever system. And what do you do with that? That's just like wasted value. So it has to be transferable.
Right, lives forever.
That's why we're building Soul Chain.
Yeah.
Soul Chain. Wow.
You're smarter than me, probably, but yeah.
Call it the Soul Chain. Blimey.
I
got goosebumps. I got goosebumps just then.
It can only work if you wear
it.
disco outfit.
Let's go.
So, yeah. Get your reputation badge and a wig.
You know, I mean, it really depends on what value would I have with the reputation? You know, is it a loyalty thing? And I really don't believe reputation is a character analysis or anything either. I think it's a whole lot less human than what we are thinking.
Less human? Expand on that.
A decentralized identity network is all built around the context of there being identifiers. So other focus points, other points that actually tag your identity, so to speak. So it's more about the network as it is, you as a
Right.
person doing something. For me and insurance, just because it's what I know, here's my use case and how I explain it. The identity doesn't matter, doesn't really exist until there's an event. Blockchain is used, its best use is a ledger to record transactions. An event occurred. Doesn't have to hold all the details about the shitty event. It just says, here's the event. And at that event, if we take like an auto claim or some sort of an accident, only thing that matters is who was there at that time and their insurance. So doesn't matter Quasar, the Cardano person was there. That's one identity. Derek, the human person, that's an identity. A father, a husband. Yeah, I'm a husband. How many identities do we all have?
Yeah,
The
that's true.
reputation comes with more identities. And your identity and wallet is really your signature. It's your keys. Your credentialing, aka reputation, is a combination of what you hold as your credentials, so to speak, and then how often your keys are used to sign transactions.
Yeah.
That's less human.
Yeah. 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 I haven't thought
It's
about.
just-
Yeah, this is the technical depth over there of all that stuff.
Well, I
The
mean, it's
schizoid. What about the
hard.
schizoid?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, they're cool.
I think
It is
that.
sort of-
I think
sort
that
of a way
will.
to-
Oh, go ahead. God.
I think
it's sort of a way to track someone's history, like their history of how they've collaborated in the network, or that's sort of.
As soon as it's useful to track something, someone's gonna track it, right?
I don't know, man.
Well, that's like if you're trying to track like reputation, especially in a blockchain, it's all about the history and where the different whatever people have associated with your collaboration, that gets added to your reputation to some extent.
Could be. I think we got Quasar, to your point before. I asked you to clarify on what it meant to whatever less human. I think it's easier, like humans are naturally going to aggregate into communities. And so figuring out however we humanly are, that human connection, that like the love that humans can share and communicate with each other, bro, that is going to, it will break down to these inhuman components that you're talking about. But I think that at the end of the day, when it comes to these networks and where you're providing decentralized tools to, there is always going to be some set hierarchy amongst any network, just like, and we should be able to have different networks with different reputation systems, and or maybe be able to use multiple reputation system combined in our network. But it's always going to come down to the bubble of your your web of connections, the people you're talking to every day.
Web of trust.
These us here this week, whatever, next week,
the glue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Miro, we trust.
Yeah, I see that we've got this base level of like identity, which is really like facts and things that exist. There's the government kind of passports, this and that, and that's like you're kind of there's these starting points that could happen fairly quickly. It's very factual based, certain things and connections that are kind of are just true things. Whereas in this next level up is this network you're discussing really of these things that are less factual and much more just kind of like might not be much less tangible.
Useful.
And it's a different, it's like a very crude version of identity of this kind of factual stuff. It's not really like the essence of how communities and networks in this the complexities of life. It doesn't reflect that, but we can head into that with this kind of like graph based
just providing
connections.
tools to that. Yeah, decentralized tools to those networks.
Yeah, and there's going to be like trust. I mean, the easy one that's going to be of these networks of trust one is like the basic insurance example of like, I trust my friend to be a developer at this scale, and I will provide 200 ADA as collateral as like insurance, and then I take out a small percentage of any work he does because I'm providing insurance to the person who's seeing that, saying, oh, he's got 2,000 ADA is insurance to the fact that he can do this job, and if he can't do it, then this insurance helps to provide some collateral, as compensation for him not doing that. So this is like, and this is kind of like, it's not necessarily like a factual thing of yes, no, it's just kind of like you start to grow this next level network of just like, oh, I can take advantage of the fact that I'm really close to this person. It's a high friendship thing, and I trust his skill set. How can I? Yeah, it's the simple first example, but then that's kind of like something that's easy, where it's like a fungible thing, ADA. But then we get these we'll get to the non-fungible stuff that's more wishy-washy, and I haven't even thought of many good ideas on that. But
we're just trying to cut out middlemen. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Leverage.
You know what happens when you cut out the intermediaries?
Well, let's cut it out. We're not trying to cut out all of
the
them.
intermediaries.
You end up doing a whole lot of
them.
work that you're not skilled to do. Like, that's when I first got introduced to the whole idea of decentralized XYZ, decentralized insurance, I'm like, oh, thank God. I can cut myself. I'm working to put myself out of a job. I don't want to sell insurance ever again. I want it just to be embedded in life. Every decision you make is like, do you want insurance in case you stub your toe? Most people will say no. And then they'll get hurt. And then the hospitals are full when there's COVID and, Donald Trump, all that kind of craziness.
Stop it, Quasar, stop it.
Sorry.
Then what?
Pass that over to
Then
me.
what? Yeah, give me that shit.
I want to help take this conversation to the next level, and I also need some inspiration. that I'm recording is going to go on YouTube.
I don't care.
Right,
No.
These networks you speak of.
Love, yes.
Are they in the room right now?
If Elon Musk can do it, I can do it.
Damn straight.
Now, come on, let's just agree.
Let's have this discussion right after the last one.
Hey, George.
I personally like Jonathan's presentation. The best thing I have seen I've attended 5 town hall things now. And this member reputation thing could be a vital key. I don't think it's fully appreciated what we're talking about here, which is why I'm saying let's just review what we talked about and possibly and hopefully agree, something that's without, does it all have to be confined within Catalyst?
No.
Exacto. I mean, it's I want Catalyst to have it. I don't want to have anything. But
Catalyst is just a network.
yeah, Yeah.
It's the starting network where all this starting stuff's happening, and then the other communities that pop up, let's say the environmental one, they're going to take all the tools that we use for their own thing. It's like whatever, network or federation or whatever pops up, we're just like a starting point. So yeah.
We get the reputation, we get the rewards for being
your environmental reputation. Good God. Quasar, you didn't recycle this, you didn't recycle that, you ate too much meat. You put paper in with tin foil, the metal, your reputation.
Quasar, the reality check. What are the logistics of taking this fantastic thing that Jonathan's done on Miro and realizing a first step that we can all meet up and discuss the second step?
You just got to keep talking about it. So we put it down on paper, but literally no. Like we'll put it on that list, and then we won't hear about it because everyone's so freaking busy. So the people here talking about it have to be pushing it in conversations in the future, because it's a network, which means it's about communication, which means it's about being here and pushing it, because it'll go on a list and people forget about it. Because there's so much going on.
But I'm just taking that.
No, I agree. I agree. Let's write it down, because we have to start being able to refer to it in our minds and be able to point people to it. But at the end of the day, it's a voice thing.
Yeah, I've added this as a to-do item on my things. I've taken a note of the Miro board, and I'm going to suggest it in the Discord chat that this list needs to be expanded on, thought about the categories, and then we can start to be like, is anyone working on any of these? We obviously already know Tyler, this and that. We know some people who might be working on some of them, and then we'll start to actually kind of refer to this list of all the reputation ideas, what ones are important. I think that is exactly what you're saying, a really important thing. And yeah, so I've got a list of that. I'm going to talk to Felix, because Catalyst Circle are actively wanting, solutions for these three things. So I will do my best to get that
that's
list.
job done, George. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. And it's really
well done.
You're getting a reputation, boy.
Here's a kudo.
As long as I'm at the top of the hierarchy, I'll do it. All right.
You'll be right next to me.
And as long as that gives me access to I want access to the best shit to smoke, basically, because the train needs to keep moving.
You've gone down, Jonathan.
Let's just remember, a rising tide raises all ships. All right.
Okay. Weed for everyone. Weed for everyone.
And it's really good that there are proposals in the funds now for reputation system, reward systems, things like that, because it wasn't there before. So we are progressing. It's not just being conversations. It is actually starting to materialize. And if the rapid funding can trap into this as well, all the better. We need to capture a lot of funding to get this stuff built. That'd be ideal.
Are you monitoring all of that, Jonathan? Are you really, not controlling it, but are you monitoring it?
No, I know. I've been in conversations and put stuff out there, and that's
Well, who do I write to? I submit it to the community.
You are the community, bro.
Right to the Quasar DAO.
Right to Quasar.
Quasar DAO.
Quasar Flutterbees.
Yeah.
Flutterbees.
You put up an email. Where's this is part of the ID problem. Forget about rewards and ID. How do you? When is the turning point where you decide? Well, I've registered with Discord. I've now registered with Miro. But when did any of you enter my personal address book? That's what this is all about, surely.
What's an address book?
Yeah, what's your address? I've got an inbox. I got a bunch of those, but
I've got so many.
Got a
I've
bunch
been
of
working
fucking
in
inboxes, bunch of wallets.
I've been with Microsoft for 30 years, right?
I'm telling you, we're in the age of
And they
sorting.
still
We have
don't know who I
shit
am.
sorting
right?
tools still.
I have so many IDs with them. I do various projects with them under different names, and they still, when I go to the support and I say, look, here's my telephone number, find this virtual machine that I created on such and such an identity, and you close that. And they go, okay. You know, you would have thought that you think these databases are comprehensive, but when you really go into them and try and find, and I said, look, I want to know, I want my product code back on this virtual machine. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. And I gave, you know, they have all my particulars. Like every time one of the girls asked me for what ID did you use for this, I supplied it all. I'm not trying to hide it. But fundamentally, for a group, any group like this intimate group has to have some sort of ID process, which is what this whole thing is about. Then we can go to the reward, the reputation process.
Well, all you anonymous guys are worried
advisors.
about ID. That look me up right there, Peter Wolcott.
Like Fund 3 or Fund 4, I included my LinkedIn profile in my proposal. And some of the assessments were like, this person put his LinkedIn profile here.
Wait, as a bad thing. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Yeah. I'm like,
Downvote.
Yeah.
This guy's professional.
This is an integral part of
the system.
Part of reputation is knowing that person, not knowing their telephone number, not knowing their ID credentials, whatever, but knowing someone is what reputation is all about.
Yeah, which is like, that's why there's different types of communication. You should listen to like, oh, let me see if I can find this podcast with Jordan Peterson and this other guy where they talk about language, like I don't know. There's different types of communication. We can do them. We do them in conversation, and then there's different levels of connection. That's why, like Zoom on a high bandwidth, low latency, you can really connect with people much better than like rooms that get a lot of people, or even like, that's why, you know, the closer you can get, even through these portals, there are levels of communication that we can share, and like literal energy through these things. But anyway, different types of communication. Let me see if I can find this fucking podcast.
Jordan Peterson's a goober snoocher.
He's just recovered. I think he was very ill. I think he died.
Yeah, he's always almost dead, but
yeah,
he's still smart.
Well, he's not necessarily smart, but he
talks.
He's a great.
He says stuff.
The anonymous guys are haters.
Well, he's stupid, man.
But he does have a reputation.
You don't have a reputation.
I
the
do.
Oprah of reputation.
I do.
Well, I don't. Okay.
This is turning into a reputation standoff, and
yeah,
you got a game I did not prepare for. So give me 5 minutes.
You brought your reputation with you.
You brought your reputation to the Zoom call.
Unfolded wallet.
That's hilarious.
Like I'm mad. It's all right. It's all right.
This conversation's went mad. I hope Spawn don't upload this to YouTube.
We need to
For
kill the
my
recording.
reputation.
For my reputation.
Your reputation goes before you. Who said that?
It's gone.
The guy behind
it. God.
This is a very expensive meeting for me.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love this. I found it. It's called the what is it called? A conversation so intense it might as well have been psychedelic with John Vervaeke. But the breakdown of language is interesting here. I think it's important to this discussion. Let me find the link over here.
I think Jordan Peterson has a breakdown of language.
Yeah.
But have any of you tried to learn another language? I've lived in Italy for 8 years and I still can't talk it.
I've been
Learning a
creating
second
one.
language. And I play
Creating
music.
one.
I can play music with anyone because it's a common language.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know that, Jonathan, on your drums. I play bass.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's quite impressive.
Jacob Pastorius.
Foundation for any decent band. Drum and bass.
Yeah, drum and bass, man. Sly and Robbie.
Yeah, that's where it's at. The rest is all just filler.
That's what creates the feeling.
Worst band ever.
It's great.
It's all down to
I'll listen
George.
to that. Thanks, Peter.
George is on another planet by the look of him. I think he's thinking about his reputation.
What
about my reputation?
I want my reputation back. Give it back.
You have any more of that reputational harm insurance? Which, by the way, we do.
You do?
Yeah, man.
How much is it?
Your reputation.
Your reputation, sir. Put it in my hand.
I mean, it all depends. Like,
How
what's the value?
much does it cost to insure my
Depends on how much money you got, boy. How much reputation you have.
I got a lot.
You boys sound expensive.
Yeah, tax deductible reputation. That's maybe
That's brilliant right there.
Yeah.
I will issue my reputation a 1099.
As a 10.
Oh, my reputation didn't work, so I fired it.
Your reputation
incredible.
bounces. Hey, that'll be a thing someday. Your reputation bounced.
Your
Get the
reputation
fuck
was
out.
returned.
Here's a question, Quasar. Could you insure your reputation like going into a job interview? So if your reputation didn't get you the job, your insurance would pay out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Jonathan,
Kind of, sort of. Yeah.
It's
Dude, this
definitely possible.
fragment's way down the line, but you could probably do that eventually.
Yeah.
Not that I want to.
Community
Push
could
on
insure
this-
your
this-
time or something like that.
If
So where
we
does-
got a system up and running, we could monitor a government, whether it's the American or the British government, because you could monitor their reputation.
Well, whoever's monitoring America,
They
good
would be
luck.
scared sick. They would
Got
be
no clue
scared
what we're
sick.
doing.
Where does insurance stop and betting start as well?
Yeah, that's a question from earlier. Yeah.
When you wake up,
George is
When you wake up.
and then again when you go to sleep. I mean, it's what is gambling but probability?
Yeah.
I'll give
It's the end of the same tour.
6-1 odds.
Oh my
And and if you think of it as gambling, it helps because you realize that you don't really need insurance, so to speak. You just need people that think you're gonna
Yeah,
that something is going to happen.
You just need reputation, bro.
Yeah, you just need good or bad and people,
That's yeah.
and people dumb enough or smart enough to bet for you or against
Why
you.
do you think gangs work? It's because of the community benefits of reputation that we're talking about here. It goes right into insurance.
It does. It does. It does. That was a form of insurance.
Yeah, it still is.
I mean, it still
for
is.
some
Yeah.
people.
Look at the community I live in.
You look like you live in a nice community, so don't dog yourself too much. The sky was blue, man.
It's Florida.
Yeah, I could have guessed. Florida. I grew up in Florida too.
Oh, I didn't grow up here. Good God. That would have been horrible.
Can we think of any more touch points in the community that could perhaps go into this reputation system factor we could track, measure?
Sorry, who else could create something, or who else could what?
Just between us now, what other points in the community might be worth looking at in terms of accruing reputation? What other activities do we see and respect and want rewarded?
That's a whole new swarm session. That's
Yeah.
like.
Well, I mean,
I'm at the
I
tail
will
end of
start
this.
thinking about that more intentionally. I've gone through a period last year where I was thinking about these things on this level, and then I've broken down into gotta find network, and then now today is like the first time I've had 6 smart people to talk about it with.
There's 8 people on the call. Who's losing out?
Yeah, there's 8 people. Hey.
Awkward.
But even at a meeting like this, there should be a sort of voting thing at the end. Who contributed most to the meeting?
Well, I think there should be like last man standing vote.
I'm happy to let you all win that. I'm happy. I'll leave now. Give you a head start. Congratulations.
Like touch the truck. You got to be in it to win it.
Oh, is this a Mr. Beast episode?
Got nothing better to do, I suppose, is the argument there. I'm trying to add a note to Jonathan's thing on Miro, and I can't work it out. It says edit.
Oh yeah, so if you just click somewhere on the board and then hit the letter N on your keyboard, it should pop up a new note, and you can just start typing what's on that note.
Sick.
Or on the left, there's a little toolbar, and it's the
yeah.
fourth icon down.
Into an option to add a file, open sans. Oh, that's the script.
Guys, I think I'm going to head off. I think we may have peaked in valuable content about 20 minutes ago.
It's been fun though since then, right?
It's the last 20 minutes have been
We're
the most
creating
fun,
the
but
community, bro. Okay.
Fun and productivity have been inversely correlated.
You're right.
Like
we've hit the peak. You're right.
I'm happy with the fun.
Reduced by 2.
Yeah. We're dinging your points for that, bro.
plus 2 on quitter. It's the price I pay.
Yeah.
And on that note, it's